On this week's World of Saltwater Fishing, we're going to be well up North Carolina's Noose River in search of winter run striped bass. And we'll target them on artificial lures. Stay tuned.
George Poveromo's World of Saltwater Fishing. Big fish don't stand a chance.
North Carolina's Noose River has a really good run of wintertime striped bass. And we're talking way up in pretty much almost the freshwater reaches where the Trent River meets the Noose River. And how this trip really began was that I trailered up my Mako 214 center console from South Florida. We trailered to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where we overnighted. And then in the morning, we'd be faced with maybe a 3-hour drive tops to get down to New Bern, North Carolina. You come across some of the most pretty 2-lane highways, and you look at the speed limit, and you can be running 55 miles an hour, then all of a sudden it brings you down to 45, then 35, and you know that these are probably speed traps. Wow, you're really checking the speed, the country roads here. I'm making sure I'm right there at the speed limit. I don't know how kindly they take to somebody from South Florida speeding in here. So we made sure we held our speed limit, made it all the way to New Bern, got to the launching ramp, and we were all set to meet up with Gary Dubiel and have a run at catching topwater striped bass.
New Bern is the second oldest city in North Carolina. Very historic place. 2 rivers, so we have the Neuse and then the Trent River comes in, so lots of fishing, lots of boating in the area, and just, a really pleasant place to be around.
A number of years ago, I had done this trip with Gary. Now, Gary is one of the outstanding fly and light tackle guides who is really based out of Oriental, not far from New Bern.
I think I'm known for chasing big reds with popping corks. We use popping corks and soft plastics. I kind of pioneered that fishery here, and it's probably the most, my business gets the most benefit from that.
But during the wintertime, he also specializes in fishing the Neuse and the Trent Rivers for the winter run striped bass. And it's all this great topwater fishing opportunities amongst a gorgeous backdrop. It is really a beautiful piece of countryside here. Now, where we docked the 214 was at the Hatteras plant. We jumped into 214, we met Gary, and we got right out to the action on the Neuse. No sooner did we get into the Neuse, our good fortune was starting to shine. The birds were diving. You could see the Simrad machine just red with schools of menhaden. You see the striped bass pushing up bait in the shallow, they're popping, the birds are on them, then they would move, reappear, busting up on other baits, the birds would be diving on them. It was a magnificent opportunity that was really no more than a half a mile where we started. This looked like it was going to be a very easy trip.
The striped bass on the Noose River, like all of North Carolina's major river systems, are an estuarine fish. What we've had the last several years is a really high salinity from low rainfall and a huge abundance of bait, and the striped bass are gorging themselves on it. It seems to be better and better that the fish are grouping up on these large schools of bait.
So Gary positioned us in this one area just off a channel where the flat had come up from roughly maybe say 15, 18 feet of water to around 3 or 4 feet. And he was explaining to me that these bass are pushing a bait out of the channel, getting them on the flats where they're easier to ambush. And he told me to start working the topwater plug in that area. So we were using these Rapala topwater baits, the skitter walks primarily. And once we felt that we were within casting distance, we were able to shoot that topwater plug way out to where those breaking fish were. Then we would start to retrieve, a walk the dog style, and before you know it, boom, there were the boils behind the baits. The way to do it. Wasn't that so exciting? He said, that fish following you up and all that?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to mire too much. There might be some behind him, so I'm going for it. I'm going to be greedy.
By all means, see if we can double up here.
Very nice. Here, top water. That is so much fun.
Yes, it is.
I don't want you having all the fun, Gary.
We might find one or two more, just by all the birds I'm seeing here.
I saw that follow up, and it's almost like you're getting ready to run out of real estate. It's coming by the boat, and boom, it ate. And did you see anything particular, or were you just fan casting it?
Yeah, just fan casting it.
Gotcha.
Perfect little Noose River striped bass there. Awesome.
Gary's hooked up. Our strategy is working.
George Poveromo's World of Saltwater Fishing is proudly brought to you by Penn, let the battle begin. Mako, you'll find them where the fish are. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Mercury Marine, go boldly. George, we'll be right back.
Gary Dubiel and I are in North Carolina's Noose River, some 20 miles inland, pitching Rapala topwater plugs for winter run striped bass. Gary had said that there's a decent chance you might even get a redfish in the mix. But it's sort of hard to believe when you see all these busting striped bass. And we're working our plugs, and all of a sudden, I'm hooked up.
Good deal, George.
Throwing behind me, Gary.
Yep.
You ever see others follow hookfish up?
Oh yeah, you'll see that absolutely. You know, these schools of fish are kind of interesting. They're a lot smaller groups than you'll see in the ocean, but
Ooh.
you know they'll get in little groups, just like that. That one's
I had a bird's eye view of that. Here's my guy. Oh, I got a redfish.
Oh,
talk about a little variety. Check that, redfish.
Nice.
How about that for some variety?
Pretty work.
That is.
Nothing like a redfish on top water either. Everything's a lot nicer on top. Pretty little slot red there, George. Excellent, man.
What you got, striper?
Well, we're gonna find out, George.
Odds-on favorite though, right?
Yeah, odds-on favorite. But he is really pulling around.
Yes, you do.
I do have a striper.
Redfish and a striper. Oh, we'll hold them together, Gary. I'll come back there for you.
Absolutely.
A Rapala topwater, skitter walk.
Mixed bag.
That's right, Noose River. Look at that, striped bass, redfish.
All on top water this morning, George. This is fantastic.
You brought me up here to catch stripers on top water, and I got a redfish. What's with this deal?
Well, I have no control over them, George.
But
Nor you.
I'm enjoying it. Let's get back in the water.
Absolutely. Nothing like a topwater fish, is there?
No. And just because you get these fish on top blown up baits, don't think that they're totally reckless, that they're going to hit anything. You still have to have a couple skill sets. And number one, trying to match up the topwater lure to that of the forage that they're eating. There's a lot of menhaden. The river's choked with menhaden. So I was using a Rapala skitter walk that closely resembled a menhaden. And Gary was also using one that closely resembled the forage in that river. Then when you launch that bait, you have to start working it and find the right retrieve, or should I say speed, that's going to cause these fish to charge it and clobber it. And that took a little bit of fine tuning. It wasn't so much the action, the walk the dog, left and right, left and right, left and right, as it was tightening up that left and right action and speeding that retrieve. They wanted a fast retrieve and more of a tight, nervous action, like the bait was just scurrying across the surface. Once you dialed in on that speed, you'd see these fish following up a couple near misses that would get your heart rate up, and then boom, finally you connect and you would hook up and you were on again. You on, Gary?
Yep, hooked up.
Oh, thanks for telling me. What you got, Gary?
Nice striper.
It is. I missed mine and you nailed yours. Whoa, come on. Right here, baby, come here. Stand in the boat right here. Son of a gun, son. This stuff is bad for the heart.
So when we were looking for them, you know, obviously looking for bait and stripers busting, birds working on them, so pretty exciting stuff. And then, you know, when we're seeing that activity, we're pitching those top waters in there, and, you know, had a pretty good time catching fish.
Striped bass are taken year-round within the Neuse and Trent River systems. The heaviest concentrations around New Bern occur during the fall and winter, and then again post-spawn in May and early June. During low water and extended cold temperatures, they'll retreat into the deep Neuse and Trent rivers. Here, deep-running soft plastics produce. Best bet, scout out an early morning striped bass feeding blitz on the flats and cast out a topwater plug. An artbypasta.com from Catch the Canvas rendering.
Catch the canvas, baby.
George Poveromo's World of Saltwater Fishing is proudly brought to you by Simrad, for those who never settle. Rapala holds the world record for world records. Suffolk's always use the best line. Starbright, clean and protect with Starbright. George, we'll be right back.
The fast topwater bite continues. Gary Dubiel and I are targeting winter run striped bass in North Carolina's Noose River around New Bern. And now one area that we fished had dried up, so it was time to move. So we hit the main channel in the Neuse, and we raced to a set of birds that looked like they were maybe about a half a mile away, but they were working really, really hard. So we start hauling up the river, ran up there about maybe 47, 48 miles an hour, and we started to approach that area, back the boat down, and once we got within casting range, a long distance casting range, boat went at neutral, Gary killed the motor. Next thing you know, here we are on the bow launching topwater plugs. And pretty unique though to see these fish pushing behind the bait, blowing up and missing it. And the best scene is when it would blow up, but it was on the plug, that rod tip would bend, you'd wind, and then you're onto another striped bass. He's behind it. Got him.
Sweet, George. Pretty work, man. Pretty work.
And there you have it. I just caught mine. Things are heating up, and it's certainly not the weather.
It's a little nippy, George, but hey, as long as we're catching, it'll be all right.
I'm loving it. And the big thing about setting the hook on a topwater, you could be working that topwater, and when you see a follower, and if it blows up and it short strikes it, the biggest mistake that you can make is trying to rear back and set the hook. Just keep focused, keep the same retrieve. Even when they're blown up right behind it, don't change the cadence or the speed. Even when they nail the plug and you're on, just keep winding until the fish starts to run off line. Then you're set, then it's time to enjoy the fight. You hooked up?
Hooked up.
Guess I was casting in the wrong spot, wasn't I?
Never
Going in
know.
behind you.
You keep finding that dumb seagull.
I know, and it's dumb. Get out of here. Another real healthy one for the river, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Now, you're fishing at, is that a topwater subsurface?
Top water.
Topwater too, okay.
Yep. The old Rapala Skitter V.
Hey, Gary.
Yes,
now,
sir.
when we're hitting these bass, I mean, are they large schools that you think, or are they just small groupings, or what's your
Still,
take on it?
This time of the year, I think they're still pretty small grouping. You know, a couple hundred fish maybe.
A couple hundred fish? I think
Yeah.
that's a big grouping.
And they're really moving.
And they're just traversing up and down in here?
Yeah.
Not really sticking in one spot?
Right, yeah. No tidal flow. We got a little bit of river current, but nothing crazy. And so they're just running this bait around.
Gotcha.
That's how we do it.
George's Tackle Locker.
For attracting bait and game fish during low light conditions and evenings, I outfitted my Mako 214 with Shadowcaster Marine LED lights. The underwater arrangement consists of 4 Shadowcaster Marine 10 EXT CC20 LED lights, 2 in the back transom, and 1 each on the aft sides. On board are 6 multicolor RGB courtesy lights, 2 full-color spreader beam floodlights, 2 full-color 8-foot-long RGB accent lighting LED strips, 2 full-color down lights with white housing and lenses, and in the live well, 2 round RGB submersible accent lights. Shadowcaster's power distribution and controller system comes pre-programmed with 12 standard colors and the ability to select nearly unlimited customizable color combinations. Whether it's to enhance your fishing or your boat's appearance at night while at anchor or at dock, Shadowcaster does it in style. And remember, when traveling at night, it's critical to understand that the least amount of light and glare in a boat is a must to maintain sharp and unobstructed vision.
Mercury Performance Stats, New Bern, North Carolina. Seas calm. Power, Mercury Pro XS V8 250 horsepower. Prop, Mercury Inertia Eco 19-inch pitch. Total miles, 16. Consistent cruise, 5,800 RPMs. Speed, 46 miles per hour on average. Fuel burn, 6.7 gallons. George, we'll be right back. George, Poveromo's World of Saltwater Fishing is proudly brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. ACR, the leader in marine safety electronics. Papa's Pilar Artesian Crafted Rum. Never a spectator. VNC, your expert in hooks. Art by Pasta, real life art. Visit artbypasta.com.
And this area was very, very active. And again, another unique doubleheader occurred. Gary hooks up and I hook up. I reel mine in, I've got a striped bass, and I hear Gary, look what I got over here. He said, are you sure we're in North Carolina? And I look, he pulls in a bluefish.
Just when you think you'd upstage the old pro comes through and he's hooked up now too.
So here we go, another double, but this time a striped bass, and Gary has a bluefish, which I thought was rather unique. And I'm thinking to myself, are we in New England or New Jersey? And this is North Carolina and the Noose River in pretty much almost the freshwater stretches. And here you go, striped bass, a bluefish, and that pretty much superseded that other hookup where I had the redfish and Gary had the striped bass. So you never really know what's going to come out of these waters.
So it's always wonderful to have a shoot, TV shoot, especially with George. And everything worked out, and we had decided to have a celebratory dinner and went to Persimmons on the riverfront here in New Bern. It's a wonderful restaurant. The food was great. The company was even better, and just an all-around wonderful time.
Just reminiscing about what a fantastic day it was, what we saw out there, what we accomplished. And again, Gary and I going far back, just reliving old times. And it, you know, dinner, like the fishing, it ends too soon.
The restaurant's got a great view of the river, so we tried not to look for too many stripers while we were eating, but it was a pretty joyous occasion.
It was an incredible day of topwater action, and you know, you hate to leave such a beautiful place. So back at the boat ramp, we load up the 214 Mako, we strap it down, lock up the rods, and it was time to make our way to Fayetteville. About maybe 2.5, 3 hours. We'd overnight there, and then in the morning make that long haul back to South Florida, just part of our normal routine. New Bern, North Carolina. I've got a lot of history here. For a number of years, we've brought our Saltwater Sportsman National Seminar Series to New Bern. It's been a regular spot. We alternate that between Wilmington, North Carolina, and New Bern. And as I mentioned before, I fished with Gary numerous times down to Oriental and also around the Noose River and the New Bern reaches.
I've had a great opportunity to fish with George a number of times and do seminars with him, and it was wonderful to get the call and to shoot the show. We've had some really good fishing on the river, and you know, he got here and it worked out, and I can't say how thrilled I was to have him experience that and just have a grand couple days here in New Bern.
If you want to keep track of our fishing adventures, we welcome you to follow us on our social media. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/George.Poveromo. I'm on Instagram at George Poveromo. And you can see our shows in 4K broadcast quality on YouTube at my YouTube channel, which is George Poveromo TV. Jump aboard and ride along with us.